Captain Now Gabe Landeskog. That Cup championship that we just saw footage from was 20 years ago. So I'll start by saying this. Thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate the time. But where was 8-year-old Gabe Landeskog 20 years ago?
Just at home, just finding that love for the game. And I actually remember I had big posters of that '01 Cup team in my room growing up, and big Peter Forsberg fan, obviously, and Matt Sundin and a few other big Swedish guys. But the Avs were my team growing up, so I've seen those clips a lot of times, that's for sure.
Yeah, and we're watching that game last night. There looked like there was a similarity because you guys were snapping that puck around. You really got the better of the Minnesota Wild last night. On the bench, do you guys know when you're playing that well? Because, boy, it was a one-sided affair. Do the guys know, hey, we have it tonight?
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to find your game every single night, and you're trying to get to that top of your game every game you play. But last night we knew how important the points were, and obviously I think yesterday was the halfway point in the season, and with us being just a point behind Minnesota going into that game, we know we want to keep climbing, and we want that first spot in the division, and so we were ready to go, and we had all four lines going, and obviously with Cale and Byram coming back in the lineup, it was a nice little injection of some fresh legs.
We never have a shortage of guys to talk about on your team with that roster. And you just mentioned Byram and Makar coming back last night. But I'd like to focus on a guy I've been really impressed with this year that doesn't get his love all the time. And that's on the back end. I mean, you've got, oh my gosh, I'm going blank here. Samuel Girard. I want to talk about him. I forgot his name. Because there's so many superstars on your team. Samuel Girard, I love his game. How good has he been this year?
I'm glad you said that, Mike, because he is a guy that doesn't get a whole lot of love around the league, kind of falls in the behind the spotlight there with Cale and Byram obviously being a rookie and super exciting to watch as well. But G is a guy that, in my opinion, been one of our best players all season long, been super consistent, been that guy when Cale went down, him and Devon Taves, that's been a great addition to our team as well. They carried a big load on the back end and played probably between 25 and 30 minutes a night, and that's a big load to carry for those guys. And G's been great. His defensive game is something that doesn't get recognized a whole lot because he's tough to play against.
I like that you call him G, too. That's a great nickname for a young player. But you're right. He took on that ice time when Cale Makar went down and took full advantage of it offensively as well, overtaking the lead for defensemen on the team. I'll ask you about Cale Makar because as young and as good as we all know that he is, I am just so impressed by his poise on a night-to-night basis for such a young player. Can you just speak to how rare that is, especially for a defenseman at that age, to just seem so unfazed by anything that happens in a game?
Yeah, I mean, that's who Cale is. He's just super cool, calm, and collected, and it goes back to his first NHL game in the playoffs, 2019. We were playing Game 3 at home versus Calgary, and him being just coming to Denver straight from winning the Hobey Baker, and I'm sure the last few days there was a whirlwind for him, and all of a sudden he was going to be thrown into the playoffs. And so I scooped him up from the hotel here down the street and on the way to the rink and asked him if he was nervous. He's like, nope. Asked him if he had a good nap. He's like, I don't need a nap on game days. And I'm like, okay, cool. You do you. And he went out and scored a goal.
He's a no nap on game day guy. Now that is a nugget.
I know, yeah. So that's just Cale in a nutshell. He's a guy that just knows himself. He very comfortable in who he is, and I think you can tell it translates to his game on the ice because he just goes out and plays the game that he knows how to play, and been really good for us, no doubt.
Gabe, how's this season been for you? I mean, it's an odd year. You guys go on these road trips. You stay in a certain city for maybe several days. You can't really spend time enjoying a nice dinner together like you normally would do. You've got some things going on in your personal life. You just had another child, so you have two little ones. How's the year been for you with all these things going on and being the captain of a really good team?
Yeah, I mean, it's that's been life the last 12 months, right? It's been very different, and I'm sure we're all sick and tired of talking about it by now. But as a team, I think we've done a good job of trying to stay focused as much as we can on what we got to do, and not lose sight of what our ultimate goal is. And it really sucks playing without fans. I got to be honest with you, and we really miss them. And we got some exciting news the other day that we're going to have them back in the building in a couple of weeks. But you know, it's been very different. The one thing that I think has been the hardest has been going on road trips and not being able to spend that quality time with your new teammates, especially, and because that's usually a really good bonding time for the guys to go out for dinners and go out for, you know, a good bite to eat and spend some time together. And now this year's been very different, but we're managing and hopefully we can get back to normal sooner rather than later.
We always get asked as former players, well, what would it be like in this situation? I have no idea. I've never had to do it. I give a lot of credit to you guys from back in the bubble till now. And the only thing I could probably say, and I'd love to have your input on this, is when you talk about the dog days of any NHL season, let alone dealing with what you guys have to deal with now, how important is it, especially when you're playing the same teams, what seems to be over and over again, how important is those guys in the room? Keeping it light, keeping it new, keeping it fresh, and coaching the coaches that have to do the same. And who are those guys on your team?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we got a really good group of guys. Guys like Tyson Jost, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, Burakovsky is a guy that's always got a smile on his face. Nazem Kadri likes to keep it light. And we've had a great addition like Devon Taves, Brandon Saad. These guys are – everybody's quality people, and makes it easy to go to the rink every day. And because like you said, we don't nowadays, you know, you're used to spending so much time together on the road and off the ice and hang out, go for a couple's dinner or whatever, even at home. But you're just kind of limited to that time at the rink. And like you said, it's important to keep it light. So we've been doing a pretty good job of that so far. And we're just hitting the halfway point. So we got a lot of hockey left.
You just mentioned two guys that I wanted to ask you about, Burakovsky and Kadri. I believe they're on that line with Saad, and they've been really good the last couple of weeks. And it really wasn't that long ago where the hot take in the media, if you will, was that the Colorado Avalanche didn't have secondary scoring. Well, it looks like you have it now. What does that line, what dynamic do they bring on any given night in terms of depth in the lineup and providing more threats when your line isn't on the ice?
Yeah, they've been great for us. And obviously Berkey and Nas were here last year and developed some chemistry together. And then bringing in a guy like Sauter, he's scored goals in Chicago, he scored goals in Columbus, and he's got a lot of experience, obviously, with 2 Stanley Cups. So the three of them have really gelled together, and they're making plays all over the ice. And they've been a really nice addition for us, just like you said. And because there are going to be nights where we have a tougher matchup and other nights where they have a tougher matchups, and you need that depth scoring. And it doesn't really even end there. Our third line with Nichushkin and Donskoy and Jost, and then our fourth line with Bellemare and Calvert and O'Connor have been great as well. So we got the depth throughout our lineup has really been the strength so far, and it's going to be even more important going down the stretch.
Hey, Gabe, before I let you go, I want to ask you how the whole trip to Tahoe went, because you guys went through something that was unusual that day, but you've had a little time now since then. Watching it, it looked terrific. Give me your thoughts on that whole experience.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely amazing. I mean, besides, having the game in itself was very different. Obviously, you play one period and then you sit in the locker room for an hour and a half, and then you go back to the hotel and you shower and you eat and you take a second nap. It was very different that way, but let me tell you, the game in itself was absolutely amazing. And it was cool to be able to play. And when the sun was coming down in the morning and play that first period, that was, you really got the view of the mountains and the lake and everything around it. And then later at night, the lights came on, and it was a pretty cool experience. And happy to finally get a win in an outdoor game, because we were 0-2 heading into this one, so it felt good.
I love that you remember those numbers. Like your record in outdoor games is a very specific thing, but obviously a memorable experience. And hey, I loved seeing those games at night. I think it was your game too, where there was that shot with like the crescent moon over the ice. It was really, really cool to watch on TV. And of course, the threads didn't hurt. You guys have some of the best in the league. But congratulations on a good first half, and best of luck the rest of the way. We appreciate the time. We'll let you get back to your babies now.